G'day everyone, welcome to this week's Life on the Hulls. I've got Bet here, my mum. She's come down again to check out the progress.
Wait, oh Gracie.
What's the progress, mum?
We've got a loop.
We've got a loop. Janet, go over and have a look over there. Just show them a sneak peek of what's to come. Ooh! Slant
there you go.
Electric head. How good's that? So this week I'm going to get in and do the saloon roof. I'm going to get all that laminated, and it's been a stinker of a job. And I promised that Jeff was going to be in this issue, my mate Jeff from Canberra. Sorry buddy, you have to wait till next week. I couldn't fit you in.
That's my turn.
It's mum's turn? Yeah, that's right. Let's get into it, everyone. So I'm trying to work out the cockpit roof here. This has got to have another 2 layers on. Still got another 600 and 300 to put on it. And then 30mm foam and then another 2 layers. But we're trying to work out the economy of doing it like this. I think that's definitely flat, but this part's not all flat. So I've got to work out how to contour this flat sheet, because I've got about 8 sheets of this stuff. I've had this for ages. In fact, I ordered this for the hull and I didn't use it. So I've over-ordered, but I'm paying for it now. So it's good now. I've got the ability to be able to use it. You can see the size of this cockpit roof, all unsupported. Yeah, see where it is over there, John, over the right there, that's actually curved. It's not flat. So that's going to have to either be curved or some grid score put in there. Of course, yeah. Well, I've been putting it off and the day has come. I've got to do that cockpit roof. Needs a layer of 300 CSM, a layer of 1215 quad. It was called for 1040 quadraxial, but I'm actually putting in 1200 because that's what I've got. Figure another 200 grams a square metre. Over the grand scheme, it's only about 3 or 4 square metres, but it is a significant amount of extra strength I'm going to put in there. 30mm foam, a layer of 600 double bias and another layer of 300 CSM to finish off the job. It all has to be done basically within the chemistry, so I've left it till last and I'm going to hit it now and get it done. First things first, I need to sand it all, get rid of all the excess crap that's been accumulating under that tarp over the last month or so, but it's going to be a pretty quick job. About 2 days of solid work there in laminating alone, and probably another 2 days of putting the foam down, because I need to kerf a lot of the foam and finger it and strip the foam around the edges of the window mullions to make sure that I'm getting a really good smooth contour, which ultimately may even be the cosmetic surface of the inside of the cockpit roof or the saloon roof. But yeah, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get into it right now. 4 hours later, holy Jesus, that was a huge one. Yeah, the foam went flat. Lucky I've been able to charge it a bit on my car charger, but that is now done. That's 1 layer of 1215 quad and a layer of 300 CSM ready for foam on here. Now there's a 30mm foam going to be on here, and it's a combination of grid score and flat sheet. John and I worked out the other day we can actually cover this section here with a flat sheet with a little bit of kerfing, because the majority of it is flat. In fact, I've got to cut out those these hatches as well, and that'll abut up to the top of the of where this dark shaded line is here, but then it's going to be grid score from there to the window edge. Same thing here. There is a serious curve. There's quite a radius, and it's too tight for standard grid score. I'm going to cut and strip the foam there, just like I did along this area here, and that'll take some time. Probably take me half a day to get that curvature right. The nice thing about that is when I can then hand sand it down to meet the flat sheet that's here. Where I'm standing here on this section here, as I've mentioned, possibly may get cut out, it may not, so I'm going to laminate it with the 30mm foam anyway, but I've still got to do the 2 layers here. So there's 2 layers of quad, or 1 layer of 1215 quad, 300 CSM, same deal on here. I'm going to make it all structural, and I can make that decision later in the year when it's up on the hull. But yeah, that's done. Looking pretty good. It's actually a perfect laminate. I'm really happy with that. It's very difficult to wet out that 1215 quad. You've just got to keep working at it and working at it. I haven't peel plied it because I intend to put the foam straight down within the next couple of days. Now, I wish it was as simple as just gluing a piece of foam down. It's actually not. This saloon roof is actually not flat, so I've put in some kerfs in the back of this large flat sheet. Why am I using flat sheet? Because that's pretty much all I've got and all I can get hold of at the moment. But there's also some hatches that need to be cut out within this as well, so I've got to measure them out, square it all up, and that's the result. So we have to cut them out first. No point in wasting sea light and wasting glue on an area that's not going to be glued down, and then that'll be beveled back in so I can tie the laminate of the saloon roof down into the actual rim of the hatches. Very important you do that to seal the foam, and also to make sure that you end up with a nice flush finish around the internal trim of the hatches. I've got that main sheet, that flat sheet curved and down, and it's looking good. I've come up to my little treasure chest up here. Now, this box I've saved since I did the hull a few years ago. I actually saved it under the hull, and I didn't so much forget about it, but it had been long sort of put aside so that I didn't have to think about it. But it's all of the excess grid score 30mm that I had left over, and I'm hoping, praying that it's going to be enough. I've actually got a few other slithers up there, and failing that, I'm going to have to either strip 30mm flat sheet or kerf 30mm flat sheet to fit all around those window inserts and the mullions, which is going to be a problem. So hopefully I've got enough here. It looks like I've got a fair bit here. I should be able to strip it and get, you know, a sufficient coverage of that main saloon roof. I'm not that worried about the back section. That's all one flat sheet, but this one here, very important that I've got the curvature and the ability to be able to strip this stuff to get it around those window inserts. So plenty here. I'm going to take it down and I'm going to get stripping. Okay, this piece is now down. Now things are going to get a bit tricky. I've now got to use the grid scored foam all the way around the window inserts and all the way down into the side there, where I'm going to use strips of foam to create that curvature that I've got there, like I did up here around those side port lights. So it's going to get a little bit challenging all the way around this area here, because it certainly isn't flat. And it's sort of curved in all directions as well. It's sort of curved upwards as well as around as well. So I've got to really make sure I get the contour right. There'll be a lot of stripping and a lot of detail work to get this bit finished. So we're stripping these, doing a little bit at a time so we can maintain the curvature. And then I'll work my way down with probably single strips, but the first two can go on. Very detailed, isn't it, Johnny?
As long as you're having fun, Captain.
Oh, I've had more fun.
If you're not having fun, you won't get up in the morning.
I could think of better things to be doing. It's got to be done.
What's the better thing to be doing? Working for someone?
Yeah, true. Yeah, once this is glued down with that 1200 quad over it, it's not going anywhere.
Very solid.
All this grid score will be filled with resin. Jesus, not so much of the stuff.
He won't help you. He doesn't build boats.
He was a fisherman, wasn't he?
Yeah, he can fish.
Wasn't he a fisherman?
Something like that.
I don't know.
I don't think he was a boat builder, but...
You know, there's some new meat.
Well, you can buy those.
Yeah, I know.
You know, you can have a replacement anything these days.
Pretty expensive.
Yeah. One day they'll be able to replace your head.
Yeah. Why would you want to replace my head?
Well, you never know, mate. You might get bit of damage there after a while.
Oh, I think there's damage there now.
Or when you get a bit old, mate, it looks a bit rugged, you know what I mean? You look like 2 miles of rough road.
Like 2 what? 2 miles.
2 miles of rough road.
That's classic. Yeah, that's very true. It's a disaster area. Is with this stuff is just to put in as much as possible and fill any void. Anything bigger than a couple of millimeters is just going to create too much resin intake, and I've tried to basically get it as void free as possible. You got to remember, I'm going to spray resin over this and it's going to fill it like a swimming pool in a dam and then solidify it, but you don't want too much resin in there to create brittleness. But I think I've pretty much nailed it right round on the curve bit. Now I have flat sheet to fill in here, and similarly over on this side, and then this part's going to be finished. I'm going to leave it for a day, come back and sand the edges. I'll actually fill it with bog with the cotton flock and vinyl ester all the way around the edges around there to make sure that I get a good interface into the window insert, just like I did around the top here, and then I can laminate it down and get it finished, get this part finished anyway. This is actually the more complicated part. It's probably the hardest part I've done so far. These here I thought was hard, but getting this curvature that we're aiming for here, there's going to be a bit of hand sanding required here, but certainly you're looking pretty good. That is a lot of foam. Alright, so that's now complete. I'm going to leave that for a few hours. I'm going to come back and start to fill this area here with my cotton flock and vinyl ester filler, and then I'll be able to sand it all back down and get a really nice bevel down to the window insert. Very important to do that. I don't want to have a big large step there because it's going to be reasonably cosmetic, and I'll have a pelament all the way around the top of it to hide the join, but I am actually aiming for a bit of a cosmetic finish on all of this area along here. You wouldn't know it looking at it now because it just looks like a dog's breakfast, but that will fill sufficiently with cloth and resin, and ultimately I've taken all of the contours into account, and I'm going to be doing a lot of hand sanding before I laminate this down tomorrow. It's nearly 7 o'clock at night. I've spent what I thought was going to take me a day, 3 days, to foam this saloon roof. It has been, honestly, I reckon it's probably the hardest part of this entire boat build has been this. I've had 3 days on my knees and just hand sculpting this foam to a desired outcome. And I think I've done a pretty good job. It's been a bit of a battle because I've had flat sections, contoured sections, and quite a lot of tying into my windows and the like. Now, there's a couple of things I like to highlight along the window sill here, which is actually the roof where it comes down to the windows. I've had to bevel it back, and there's a couple of things that are really important to note. Along here, because it's foam and because I've used particled foam, or what we call contoured foam, to butt up against this windowsill, I've had to use small amounts of infill foam to get it exactly right and to follow the contour of that window. Now, as a result, it creates a bit of an optical illusion. So when I've hand sanded that, it looks all out of place and a little bit wavy, but when I actually run my hand along it and I run my eye along it from a different angle, it certainly does look exactly true. And in perspective, it's like when you look at a wall and the brickwork's not right. It's just, if there's an angled brick or a little brick that's out of shape, it throws out the whole thing. And that's what's happened along here, particularly just right here. And I'll show you what I mean. As I run my eye along that, it actually looks totally out of shape. But in fact, it is true because it actually follows the same contour. As what it is the small and minute amounts of foam that I've used to infill have actually put my eye out of line, and I've spent so much time trying to get it right, and I think I've got it. But I'm ready to glass this now. Of the work that's gone into that, 3 days to get it down and to get it shaped. Been an absolute bastard. It's going to be perhaps the biggest day I've ever laminated. This is 3 big layers. It's a 300, 12, 15 quad and 300 on top of it with peel ply. It's probably about a 9 hour straight laminate, possibly without even time to have a wee. I'm waiting on the coffee lady, on Pam, because I'm desperate for a coffee. I don't want to start this until that arrives. This entire cockpit roof is going to be done in one sitting. It's right on the edge of what you'd generally apply as a laminate. It's on 1800 grams. And essentially that is about the limit of a single laminate due to the exothermic reaction. I just don't want any heat damaging A, the foam, B, the laminate underneath. So 1800 is around about the standard. It's actually Australian standard. I know that in a lot of infusion centres they do a higher laminate. I'm not prepared to do that because I'm not prepared to have any chance of damaging the substrate underneath. But yeah, so 1800 basically going to go down. I've got the guns ready, the pumps pumping, the resin's flowing. Just need the coffee to get in me, to give me the energy to pop this out. And I'm a bit down today. I'm a little bit buggered. It's been a freaking massive month. And yeah, I'm just starting to feel the effects of doing solo work, because it is hard work. Well, there it is. 7 hours it took me. Luckily, Janet showed up about an hour ago and chucked some food at me and a can of Coke, and it just gave me a little bit of extra oomph to get through. I was a bit over it. My back started playing up. I've got a bit of a bad back, and that leaning, Jesus, that bending over with that spray gun's murder. The battery went flat on this. I've been charging this the last hour, but yeah, have a look. It's now done. And I'm pretty happy. Right down, it's all peel plied, but right down here where the window meets the foam is now, you know, it's pretty much sculpted and looking really good. That's gonna come up a treat when I remove that peel ply, but I'm gonna be tempted not to remove it off the actual whole roof. I don't like taking it off when I don't need to. I see a lot of guys laying down peel ply and then 5 minutes before the shit goes off, they're ripping the peel ply off. Leave it on right to the very end until you need to take it off, you know, to re-glass onto it or whatever. Now I need to strip reinforce around the base of these windows and pretty much around the top of them, so I'll be cutting the peel ply back as I've done further up the back there with some of the hatches, because I've got a lot of little intricate sort of glassing to do. Next job will be to get 2 layers down on this 30mm foam, 3 more layers on here, and that'll be done. And then that last thing I've got to do is that lounge suite out the back. I've just got to put a bit of foam down, get a couple more layers on it and a bit of core mat. Done, job done, the whole thing will be complete. So pretty happy that that's come up really good. And yeah, the one thing that I noticed is that took nearly 40 kilos of resin, and the reason why it took 40 kilos of resin is not only have I done 3 layers right at 1815 grams, that's just over what the standard would be to in one laminate session. You wouldn't want to be putting any more heat down than I just did, but the grid scored foam takes so much resin, and you know, every company uses this stuff to vacuum infuse. And imagine if you could have flat panels on all boats, it'll be as ugly as a dog's breakfast, but it wouldn't take a lot of resin because the flat sheet doesn't absorb any resin at all, whereas this grid scored stuff effectively is filled with resin on every single cavity, and ultimately it becomes a stiff member inside the matrix there. But the problem with it is you're adding a lot of weight. So the grid scored stuff, although it's really good for contoured shape, you know, it sucks up a lot of resin and adds a lot of weight. So you've got to catch-22. You're trying to save weight by using foam, but you're adding a shitload of weight that you don't need because you've got contours. So yeah, it's a catch-22, and yeah, think on that. Think about the best way is if you can design a boat that's shaped like an Elon Musk car that's all square panels and everything, you're going to be a lot better off from a point of view of weight, because you're going to keep the resin, excess resin out of it, whether you vacuum infuse it or wet laminate it.